Hey there, guys. It's Nolan and Jason here with the Webmasters.
Howdy.
Today we're going to go over why you need content marketing. So, really basic stuff, but a lot into it, right?
But I mean,
Yeah.
the basic stuff is the stuff that's incredibly important.
My bad.
Phone.
People are interested in us. All right. So, yeah, but I mean, content marketing is super important because everything connects to it. I mean, people do underestimate it.
Yeah, you'll hear people in our line of work saying content is king all the time. You've probably heard it. If you've talked to anybody like us, you've heard it so much that you want to punch them when they say it.
It's background noise almost.
Yeah,
you know,
but unfortunately, it's actually true.
Right.
So
why is it important? So let's start with the basics. Most of the time, in fact, I was just on a website of a guy, and he had 20 pages, and every single page had 50 to 75 words on it. So it's called, basically people have sparse content to no content. This would be sparse content, like not enough to warrant them to optimize you for the keyword term. So if Google did show you for the keyword term and you had 50, 75 words, or if they were going to look at you, they would look and say, hey, this doesn't warrant showing this to anybody because it's just so poorly done.
Right.
There's not enough here to read, and people will make comments like, oh, well, people don't read the content. Well, they do if they want to read it.
Right.
If you don't have any, you took away the option for them to read anything.
Right. And just as a side note, it doesn't matter if they read it because Google reads it.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
and Google decides based on that content whether to show your site. And so if you think your customers don't read it, I'm not even going to argue the point because it doesn't matter.
Whether they think it or not.
Yeah, whether you believe that or not.
It doesn't matter if the client, if it's a business person looking at it,
right,
and they have deemed it not necessary, then that's just too bad. You have just disagreed with Google, and you'll do very poor in search.
Yeah, disagreeing with Google is not a good way to rank well.
I'm trying to say it nicely. I don't know, but if you want to disagree with us and you're a business owner, you're in really bad shape.
Right.
So let's talk about a page of content. So let's talk about a page of content about how about TPO single ply TPO roofing for a commercial roofer.
Right.
And so they're a commercial roofer, and they have a page for commercial roofing. Would they show up if they didn't have a page for TPO?
Depending on the market, they might show up for a general roofing search, depending on other factors were done really well.
Well, it was. I didn't mean to trip you up, but if it's any kind of competition at all, the answer is no.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's talking about.
I'm just trying to give a very in-depth answer.
Yeah, he's correct. Maybe if you're in a town of 3,000 and you're the only commercial roofer in town.
Right.
However, if somebody didn't type in TPO commercial roofing, you still won't show up.
Right.
Well, I take it back. You are minorly correct. You are minorly correct.
I was just trying to give an in-depth answer and pad out the runtime.
If they're in Sholo, Arizona, or Snowflake, Arizona, why not remember that? So there's Sholo, Arizona, with 3,000 people, and there's no roofers, and someone types in TPO roofing, you're the only thing that optimizes around the word roofing? Yeah,
sure.
You're going to show up.
Right.
So Sholo, Arizona, I give it to you. But if you're in any competitive market, like
Denver, Dallas, large town, and almost any town in Florida.
But Jason, in fairness for the argument on this, if somebody's in Sholo, Arizona, or Snowflake with 1,500 people, they're not watching this, nor do they compare about competitiveness.
Probably.
Nor can they barely pay their bills because there's not enough roofs to do in the entire area, right?
Great.
Yeah. So I know. We had years ago. We had a flooring store, and it was in this area of these odd little towns. But if you're the only game in town, yes. But if you're in a competitive market, which is pretty much anything and everything, and you don't have a page for it, they're not going to extrapolate out of thin air when there's other good people to choose from that you do that service.
Right.
So, in fact, if you're in a large town, they wouldn't show you anyway, even if no one else had a page for this, because they're actually going to show user intent related things to that person, like
the Wikipedia page
a
on single-ply
manufacturer for
roofing or a
TPO roof,
manufacturer or something like
So if you have a page for it, and then that one page is written well, then all of a sudden you've earned the right to show up. You've earned the right for that to show up, possibly even your map to show up, because properly written pages actually expand the amount of times the map can show up. Because again, why show the map to somebody for a product or service that someone may not offer?
that. Yeah, that you haven't declared that
Right.
you do.
Right.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't show up in the small town. The map would be unlikely to, because the keyword wasn't associated with it.
Right.
Organically, they might have. It's obscure. It's obscure.
It is. It is. And
We,
just while we're on the subject, if you have you could have like a really in-depth commercial roofing page that might mention TPO.
you could.
But
In the small
if
town.
no. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not. I have more. On my
Okay.
point here.
Okay.
If your competitor had a nice commercial page mention TPO, and then under that in the hierarchy they had a full page on TPO, they're the one that's going to get the top spot.
Right.
Because Google does not rank you based on how nice a guy you are, how much you need the business, or how good a roofer you are.
Right.
They rank you on the quality of your web effort and largely the quality of your content.
Yeah, the whole digital marketing effort, I guess, but the content is going to, there's just simply no basis for it without the content.
Right, exactly.
And
that's the only way Google knows what you do or what you want to show up for.
So yeah, on the TPO page, you could talk about single ply or thermal polyethylene, I think, or whatever, and then all of a sudden that one page optimizes for dozens of keywords.
Right.
So over and over again. So if you had a site that has dozens of pages about services, then you can show up for hundreds and hundreds of keywords, because each page has nuanced variations of the keyword for that page. But not only, and that was one thing I threw out in that, but not only is it the page content that shows up for the organic, but also the mapping has no chance of showing up either if it's not a primary category keyword.
Right.
So if it's a primary category keyword like a roofer or plumber or whatever it is, or dentist, or they're going to show that up. But if the dentist doesn't have all their services underneath there, the map won't just assume. So
Yeah, the map will not assume that this particular dentist does
this specialty.
this particular kind of obscure implant surgery.
Right.
You know, since we're talking about dentists.
Correct.
You'd have to have a page talking about that specific thing, and then Google says, oh yeah, someone's searching for that. This guy that's only 2 miles from him does it. Boom.
We did not know the general dentist category of dentists also did this type of cosmetic procedure.
Right.
Now that we know that, then the map says, oh, the map can pop up.
Right.
So the organic effects just, I don't know. So what else is the organic effect? So as far as that dentist is concerned, they pick categories in there, but there's not enough categories to count for every type of service there is. That's where the content expands the categories that whatever type of business it is might have.
Right.
So what else does content do? Well, it changes. It should be added to. There's something called blogging. Blogging is important just for changing content, and a blog page written well that isn't like a temporary blog entry can optimize high for years and years and years.
Right.
So on those blog entries. So when we do blog entries now, they're really large, in-depth blogs.
They're like in-depth articles, not just quick little
Let's blog
blurbs.
because we think we're supposed to as a digital marketing agency.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what almost everybody does. But if you actually stopped and slowed down and wrote a larger content-rich blog about better category topics and stuff, it has a shot of optimizing and telling Google, hey, we're working and trying here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we're adding valuable subset content to the stuff that we already have to embellish stuff. And if somebody wanted to read it, it's here, right? So, yeah, the blogging helps people do that. So another thing we're going to talk about is the Google crawling. So people talk about this stuff, and I was just on the phone with somebody. Just on the phone before this, and he's like, "Well, can you use my website or you do this?" And it's like, "Well, we have to do custom code base but it's like, well, yeah. Why would you think that you can use old sloppy code and design, or why would you think that you could put up this content and never change it? You know,
Right.
like could
Right.
you just change this? Could you just do this once and lacquer it and like seal it, and then just like we're done, right?
It lasts forever.
Yeah, just dip it in chrome. And it's over.
Encase it in lucite.
Yeah,
It's
there
preserved
you go.
forever.
That's what I was looking at. That's the lucite. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that doesn't work that way, because then you're this stagnant thing that's supposed to be dynamic.
Right.
Other things are dynamic, like reviews and work outside the site and work in your Google My Business account and Google Map postings and things like your social media and reviews across the web. Those all affect it, but content needs to be changed just like everything else.
Right.
So
Needs to be changed, needs to be updated. Google needs to see. It's basically just like every once in a while putting your hand up and saying, yes, we're still here. Yes,
Yeah.
this business is still in business.
And
there's so many dead websites out there
Yeah.
that, like from people that went out of business, never took their site down, the hosting company leaves it up for 3 years because nobody's paying attention.
somebody,
And,
right.
and we've seen that. And, Google, they don't know if you're in business if you don't tell them.
Right.
They don't know if they should show you or not. And so the longer it goes with no changes, the more likely they're to think, is this guy still alive or whatever.
So I would argue that like could things happen without content online? Yeah, a few things could happen, and we're talking about like on search engines.
Yeah.
A few things could happen online. Would you lose 80% of your ability to show up online without any content, or like hardly any? Like, yeah, you would lose like 80% of your ability to show up online if you didn't do any content.
Yeah. We hear stories every once in a while. We'll get a potential client talking to us, and they'll say, well, I've got a competitor down the road, and his website only has one page, and it's got 50 words on it and his logo and phone number, and he shows up at the top for everything.
Right.
And you see weird anomalies like that sometime,
Right.
but you better not count on that.
Yeah.
You cannot assume that the same thing's going to happen for you. 'cause
We had a
it's probably
guy
not.
in here the other day for attic insulation
Yeah.
and home energy audits, and somebody showed up in his category in a major town, and he didn't have a website,
Right.
but he showed up on mapping. But it's an odd category for like a home energy audit. Is still an odd category, and I had since signed him up as a client and
Right.
gone and entered all this stuff, and I went and researched some of the competition.
Yeah.
So there's very, very poor
Yeah.
competition.
Well, we look just as a little side note thing. We searched ourselves some of his primary keywords, and what we saw coming up at the top was like Wikipedia pages, .gov pages, and Home Advisor.
And some of his competitors.
Yeah, but but his competitors were further down than that other stuff,
Yeah.
which tells us that nobody is giving enough of a content-rich site to Google to show, so they're choosing to show this other stuff.
Yeah.
Google will, if you have a local business providing X service and you provide good content on your website, Google will favor you.
They'll give you some favor because you're relevant to search and user intent.
Right.
It's not that some people might look at a lead site, so they'll speckle some of that in.
Yeah.
But they do want to show local stuff because a lot of people like to go directly to it. They don't want to have to shop through the lead site to find local people.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I went and looked, and there's he has very little quality competition. And the point is on this, when he has a few more people coming to competition like us who does proper web work, he will get dropped off of mapping.
Right.
They just didn't have enough people to put in the pack 3 that they thought deserved to be up there with all the things that Google grades.
Yeah. So that they kind of scrounged and got whatever they had up there.
Presumably because of some of the other weighted factors the algorithm gave credit to, like how long he'd had the Google account.
Right.
So he'd been up there for a while, but at the point to where the shining example of great work that we put up goes up, they're going to go, oh man, this
guy's much better.
Get this guy out of here.
Yeah.
So but that was on an obscure, odd category, and that is unusual to happen. And I would also argue that pretty much anybody looking into this doesn't have that situation.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
maybe the guy that's about to lose his spot will look at this.
And give us a call.
Right. But yeah, that's how stuff, if people do fall in ranking, that is what basically happens. That's basically, we described like a little facet of the essence of algorithmic search and optimization.
Yeah.
So people get spidered or deemed to be better because more stuff was done, and therefore they fall away. It also validates the point of where we started this out, is that this stuff needs to be done and done regularly and updated because people are competing for this, and then the grade is given by Google.
Yeah, and just because you've seen your competitor up and he's been up there, we hear this all the time. Those other guys been up there for years. That doesn't mean he'll stay up there.
What if all of society had gotten together early on and conspired and said, we're just going to be lazy and do nothing to better, and then that way, this one, or let's all get together and say, okay, well, we have to better it a little bit, so let's all agree to give 1% of our effort, and so that it all like at a snail's pace increased, and somebody could do almost nothing and shoot up in search rankings.
Yeah, that was buying links.
It's too bad. It's too bad we're all so competitive.
So much easier.
Yeah, so you're having to watch this now because people have fought tooth and nail to get up there, and all this effort's been done, and you have to keep upping it and upping it.
And it is an arms race. I mean, it
is.
He was talking about pages with 50 or 75 words or whatever, and at one time those would have showed up a few years ago.
They would have. Well, yeah.
And now there's absolutely no way.
7 years. 7 years.
Yeah, I've seen a few.
Okay, all right.
That's a
a few.
soft term.
Okay.
But now it's like 500 minimum, maybe more.
Depends on the category.
Yeah, depending on the category, how competitive it is. That's why you'll hear, you'll hear us throw out little, depends on this, depends on that, little caveats all the time, because everything.
I actually did pretty heavy content for this guy. He had multiple 750 word pages that I put into it.
Cool.
There was a few things that competed. He had, but we're only having to beat like 2 or 3 people we're going after.
And none of them had much of an effort.
There was one good one. I liked it.
Was there?
They had a drop down for radiant barrier, and the radiant barrier drop down had multiple questions under that were similar to related search on Google. What is a radiant barrier?
We could do a
How do you install a radiant
discussion on related search.
How do you install a radiant barrier? How much do they cost? What's foil compared to aluminum barriers? And so they had all that was actually pretty brilliant. And
that's cool.
So we don't ever copy anything, of course, but we definitely added some of that flavor. And
we don't copy, but we will. What's the word I'm looking for?
It's a better mousetrap. I mean, we added a lot of those pages. And combined with everything else, they're going to get they're going to go up there. Listen, this. There's no doubt that it's not better.
Yeah.
It's just that will it react immediately? Some of it will react immediately. Will they beat him over the course of time? Yes. Will he get response immediately? Yes. Will he beat him on all those keywords for that category? I don't know.
Maybe.
He might.
It's almost always a maybe.
Yeah.
Because
we don't own Google.
We don't own Google. Yeah. If we owned Google, I personally would not be sitting here right now.
I would not be hanging out with Jason.
Not a chance in hell.
Hey, it's a joke. You cross away from me. That's rough body language there. Yeah, there. I don't know. I'm on my own island somewhere, right?
Several,
yeah.
My own country.
Yeah. All right. That is enough, man.
I think so.
All right, guys. I hope you believe in content marketing. And by the way, we have a lot of people here that write content. I forgot to tout those people.
Almost half our staff is content writers, if that tells you how
they're
important it is.
degreed before they get hired.
Mm-hmm.
They get vetted out. There's an editor, a creative director / everything else, right? Management over
everything
here.
Else
Director of operations. And so there's multi-tiered levels of it. They get trained constantly. We've got a great crew to write the content that you need and then stay after it. And we hope to hear from you. Take a look around and then give us a call.
See ya.
Bye-bye.